Hello, friends. So I've already done this step where I have taken words that I were unsure of, I changed them to red, and then I looked them up. So now I'm at the point where I'm ready to actually start reading and highlighting. Now, as I read and highlight, I'm going to highlight based on the questions that are written in our reading purpose. As you can see, each question is a specific highlighted color. So, as I'm reading, if I find anything that answers the question, how are Indigenous affected by mining in the Amazon? If I find anything in here that helps me understand how Indigenous might be affected by the mining in the Amazon, I'm going to highlight it yellow. Now, if I find anything that supports why environmentalists are concerned with mining in the Amazon, I would highlight that in orange. And the same with government, and the same with business. So, my goal during this next step is to highlight information that answers one of these questions. I may have a lot of highlights that are yellow. I may have a lot of highlights that are blue. And then there might be in some articles I have none of either of those colors. It all depends on the article that you are reading. So, as we look here and read through this article, I'm going to focus on this second paragraph for right now for my sample. Far from his home village of Turajam, Belem ran across a group of white outsiders. They were garimpeiros, gold prospectors or gold hunters, who were working inside the Cayupo Reserve, a 27 million acre Amazonian wilderness demarcated or set boundaries for indigenous people. Gold mining is illegal there, but the prospectors were accompanied by a Kayopo man, so Belem assumed that some arrangement had been made. About 9,000 Kayopo live in the forest, split into several groups. Each had its own chief, and the chiefs tended to do as they pleased. So I'm going to stop after that paragraph and I'm going to ask myself these four questions. Did it mention anything about how indigenous are affected by mining in the Amazon? It didn't really mention anything about how they're affected by it. It did mention that some illegal miners have contact with some of the prospectors or gold miners. So obviously they are communicating with them. So I'm going to highlight that and change it to yellow. All right, then I'll ask the next question. Is there anything in that paragraph that tells me about how environmentalists are concerned about mining in the Amazon? There was really nothing in here that talks about how the environment is affected by mining, so therefore I would not highlight anything in orange. Then I would go to the next color and the next question, which is, what is the government doing about mining in the Amazon? Now, this paragraph mentions nothing about government or how government is dealing with mining in the Amazon, so I would not highlight anything. And last but not least is business. Why are businesses mining in the Amazon? And as I look through here, there's really not too much about why businesses are mining in the Amazon. There's not a lot of information. So I would leave that with no green. So let's go on to the next paragraph and see if there's anything that is there. Ever since the Kayopo had come in regular contact with the outside world in the 1950s, whites had been trying to extract resources from their forests, beginning with animal skins and expanding to mahogany and gold. In the 80s, some chiefs made easy profits by granting logging and mining rights to outsiders, but after a decade of mahogany was depleted or used up, and the price of gold had dropped. After environmental advocates or supporters in the Brazilian government brought a lawsuit against miners, the Kayopo closed the reserve to extraction. Since then, the international gold prices have tripled to $1,400 an ounce, and an influx of new miners have come to try their luck. So I once again, after the paragraph, would stop and say, how are Indigenous affected by mining? Well, Some indigenous are making money off of this mining. Some chiefs made some profits. So I'm going to highlight that in yellow. All right, and then I'm going to keep reading. All right, after a decade, the mahogany was depleted and the price of gold had dropped, right? So I don't think any of the rest of it has to do with how indigenous may be affected, so I'm going to leave that blank. I did see something in here about government, though, that there was a lawsuit and the reserve was actually closed for mining. So I'm going to highlight that in blue because that's something that the government is doing about mining. They closed the reserve so people could not mine on it, right? I also remember reading something about how much money people can make from mining, and that's why businesses are doing it. So I'm going to highlight this last sentence about how gold prices are on the rise, and that's why businesses are coming in to the Amazon. So now you're going to go and try the same activity with your article. You will stop after each paragraph and ask yourself these 4 questions and highlight if necessary. Remember, you don't always have to highlight everything. As you can see, there is still a lot that I have left blank. Good luck.